And now I'm really happy to introduce Stephen McDowell, Design Director of BNIM, and Elif Tinney, Head of Interiors. Yes. Yeah, so welcome both of you. Now, BNIM was selected as the AIA Architectural Firm Award winner from last year, and again have a prominent role in this year's convention. So tell me about what you're doing here.
Should I start, Steve? So really what we are trying to create here is we are trying to define what the profession is going to look like in the future. So the space itself is obviously very materialistic, but what it's trying to create is a dialogue that can kind of define what a firm of an architecture firm can look like in the future. So we are trying to engage everybody at the convention floor to come in and tell us what they think, tell us how they will fix the issues of today. We are trying to kind of explore some big scale questions.
Well, we should explain. I mean, you're talking about the open source office, which is just over here, right, where people can experience for themselves exactly what you're talking about and test whether what you're saying is
absolutely. Absolutely. So we created about a 2,000 square foot exhibit space. So we're right across the aisleway from Architect Live, right in the center of the convention floor. And the space is kind of broken out into different areas and with a focus on a central space that we've been calling the community table. So we found out that it's been quite busy. It's well received. We have quite a group there. It's almost full house right now. There's barely any seating. And we are trying to engage everybody to kind of check out what's going on and talk to them about some of these questions we're trying to explore. Do you have anything to add, Steve?
Sure. Maybe I can take a step back a little bit in that when Hanley Wood and AIA asked us to help with this idea last fall, I think it was, the question they really asked us is, what's the office of the future going to look like? And we kind of turned the question around and said, so how are people going to work? How do we create an environment that's more focused on helping people do their best? And one of the phrases you'll see sprinkled in the presentation is humanity helping humanity. And that idea of creating an environment that really allows everyone to be who they are and to work in a way that maybe we've never worked before, and that using technology not as we've maybe traditionally been using it today, but instead, again, turning things around and creating an environment where technology truly supports us in the most least invasive way possible. Bringing nutrition into the workplace, bringing your children to work. Someone asked us about is the dog present? Is this a place to bring your dog to work? And absolutely it is. And so I think what you'll see across the hall are just different ways of creating community, different ways of working together, creating new levels of collaboration. And I think in a way, just like the previous presenter was talking about, new ways of using wood in buildings, still based on tradition. I think the approach that we took to the office is still using the same parts of an office in the same way, and in some cases, in other cases, reinventing what office is like, but really thinking about how we're going to be working together in the future.
But you know what's really interesting in a lot of corporate offices especially is that people have these inter-office messaging systems. So now, even if you sit there, I can just text you or email you a question and maybe send you a sketch, something like that. So the idea is that you really now have proximity. You want people to sit next to each other or across from each other and really encourage a kind of real-life, real-time dialogue.
Absolutely, and also people that aren't at the convention, that couldn't come for whatever reason, can participate. They can tweet or use other social media tools, follow the blog. But we are, one of the early ideas was, how do we bring people from outside the convention into the room, and how do we keep the conversation alive going beyond the convention?
I referred earlier to Oliver Alto, my favorite architect, and I talked about how he remembers his own father as an engineer, surveyor, having a big white table in his office and having everybody work around that big white table. And he said that when he has his office, he wants to have that big white table. Of course, later he made his own office, but the idea that that people would sit around this communal table, it's interesting to see that sort of come back in your idea for the now and I guess the future.
Well, Alvarado was one of our favorites also, and I did not know that story. But I will say that we have a phrase in the office that we try to practice. I think we do practice, and it's no one knows as much as everyone. And so we're around tables a lot. We have in our office we have not wood tables or white tables, but we have big black tables that kind of serve that are 35 feet long or so, more than that, 6 of them. And so some of this probably came from that laboratory that we work in.
Do you separate into departments? Do you say that let's have an architect sit over here and the interiors will sit over here? Or do you say, no, we're all going to sit together by project or by, I don't know, size?
No, actually, no. We are very much integrated. So my background is interior, so I'm an interior designer. So I work with architects on a daily basis, and I work with my project team. So we are grouped into studios in our office space, and those studios work on projects together rather than, there are a few exceptions in the office where it makes sense for that to happen. So the idea is, I guess, not to necessarily kind of dictate, we need to be separated in this way or that way, but whatever makes sense, whatever. And I think even with the variety of the spaces that we are kind of trying to talk about here, diversity and just kind of integrating options to do different things based on what is needed is kind of the key.
Well, what's really interesting about your office's work is that, I mean, to me, there's no there's no signature style. And it seems more like, all of the projects are very, they're very fresh and different, and it means that probably there's a lot of people encouraging a lot of people to participate, and I think that probably, that comes through. Maybe the way of working or the way that you're encouraging others to collaborate, it's coming through, as opposed to, again, working in a signature office where maybe the staff there's a certain direction, there's a certain end product that we kind of know what we're looking for. Your office is not like that at all, and it seems like the way that you organize yourselves supports that.
I think part of that, and maybe still like to add to this, but part of that comes from our clients as well. As we are sitting around the table and talking about kind of in an integrated team environment, working in an integrated team environment, we really mean us, our consultants, as well as our clients. So when we are working on projects, that personality comes through, and a lot of times our clients is a big collaborator of us. So that's probably what you are mentioning is part of that.
I think a couple years ago there was a book written about one of our projects in Texas at nursing school. The name of the book is Nurture. A phrase that came out of that book, I should give credit to the authors, Rudolph L. Curry and Andrew Payne, was generous pragmatism. What they meant by that was what a building does matters more than what it looks like. And I think that what you're picking up on is that we are very focused on what buildings do, how they help organizations perform, how they make people more comfortable, healthier. And so our buildings are, they're in different places. They respond to the culture, to the environment, and they very much respond, as Elif said, to what our clients' goals and aspirations. I might also mention that there's other people in the room that were contributors to this, including Planet Reuse, who sourced a lot of the wood products, and they happen to be a Kansas City company, so we're very proud that they could be here. But that that which is part of the collaborative spirit of the firm. We had a general idea. Elif had some great ideas, but we called up our friends and said, "This is what we're trying to accomplish. How can you help tell this story and make this possible with the not always generous budgets that we were working with?" So.
What's really interesting is that your office is based in Iowa. Is that kind of the home?
Kansas City's the home.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the home.
We have a Des Moines office, and they're here too.
It's a Midwest-based office, and it's interesting because I'm Northeast, and I always worked in the Northeast, and there's a certain kind of attitude about other places. And in fact, you look at your firm's work, and it's astounding in terms of its range and the kinds of work that you're doing. How do you sort of see? I don't know if you feel that way, but your office has to be in New York, or you have to be in Boston, or something like this. And in fact, here you are doing this really fantastic work. And for me, in Boston, I feel the weight of history and all of these things which make it difficult actually to experiment. I wonder if you find that actually being in a place maybe that has less errors, is it easier, or is there any, am I just completely grasping for straws?
Yeah. Kansas City is a very young city, and we've torn down a lot of our fabric, which is unfortunate, but I think that we never intended to really move beyond Kansas City. We were really focused on making buildings and making the spaces between the buildings wonderful. And then sustainability and other things started opening doors for us to travel. You know, we have offices in other cities primarily because we have great people that want to live there, that want to be part of the office, not so much that we're saying, you know, we're on this geographic sprawl attitude. You know, we're working in New York right now. We're doing it out of Kansas City. We we bring consultants from across the globe, which is probably, I mean, from across the country with us, which is probably not always a great idea, but it goes along with, we find people we want to work with that we know will contribute at the highest levels, and so we kind of pull that team with us. Would we ever be on the East Coast? It has more to do with the right person wanting to be part of the firm or being part of the firm and wanting to be there, probably than us choosing geographic locations.
You know, I know a lot of your reputation is based on the great work you've done in sustainable design. And, I mean, to me, what I like so much is that a lot of it doesn't necessarily look like that. I mean, I think the work looks like beautiful work, and it happens also to be sustainable. And I know that others feel differently, but I sort of like the idea that it can be a high-performing, a beautiful building, but not necessarily be in-your-face green. That's, again, me. But you're sort of nodding your head. What's your sort of
I mean,
thought about that?
I think buildings do lots of things, have to do lots of things well to be great buildings. I mean, they need to be sustainable. They also need to be great urban partners. They need to be places that inspire people to be their best and to do their best. They need to be representative of the culture and of the climate and all that. And, you know, and I think that, you know, we're always trying to balance all those different layers to make buildings that are high performing. And high performing, you know, it's not just about how much energy they use or how they are good stewards of water or air, but it's a kind of across the board.
How you feel.
Yeah, how you feel, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we talk about the experience of the space quite a bit, or the building itself. I think that kind of speaks to that. At the end of the day, how you experience the space makes the difference.
I'm just curious, does Herman Hertzberg, does he ever pop up in any of your discussions when you think about Herman Hertzberger?
Oh, absolutely. Especially some of his work in schools.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
that's what I was thinking about.
And his connection to nature. And, you know, we talk about nature a lot. I mean, it's a big part of our work. And, in fact, we define beauty in kind of with three tenets. One is that a building has to touch all your senses or touch your senses. Second is that it needs to inspire your mind or cause mental interest. And the third is how well it connects you to nature. And I think his work also, you can find the best in his work in the same way. So,
see, this is why I like your work so much, I guess. Well, thank you so much, Stephen McDowell and Elif Tinney, and you can visit right across the aisle over there, the open source office, and see exactly what they're talking about in person. Thank you very much.